Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
What is up, universe? It is me, Joe Tantillo, the J-Lister, coming to you live from New York. I am ready to tag in. Are you? Ding, ding, ding. Listen to that ring bell. There was so much wrestling to talk about. It was quite the weekend with All In happening, and the week thus far has been incredible in terms of Monday Night Raw. So much to discuss as always, and we will be bringing to you all the goodness for your ear holes that you long, that you crave. But first, I want to give a special shout out to our friends over at the Wrestle Hub, who are currently putting together the first ever annual Wrestling Podcast Awards Best Of. So they, in essence, have decided to get together with a bunch of the other wrestling podcasts in the community and establish some criteria and categories for Wrestling Podcast Awards. And if you would like to nominate someone for these awards and possibly eventually vote on who wins, go on Twitter and go to @TheWrestleHub, that's TheWrestlehub, and look at their pinned tweet, and you can nominate anyone, including yours truly, for a number of categories. We've already been nominated for Best Review Show, but you can vote for Best Duo, Best Trio, Best Overall Show, Podcast of the Year. So head over there and give us a nomination, and give whoever you like a nomination, because this is a really cool thing they put together for this community. That being said, we have a lot to discuss, but first things first, folks, you don't want to miss out on 1 second of Tag Me In Bro content, so go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro, and you can join our over 9.2 thousand followers in debates, discussions, follow trains, etc. We're always bringing you that good content and growing the wrestling community, because this is a show that is by the fans, for the fans. We are fans just like you, and we want to give you that good content all the time. So that being said, it's time to turn your radio up and your opinions down, because it is about to go down in a big way. Today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling. First things first, we'll cover the Raw Rundown, where we'll give you our analysis of the most important bits of last night's show. As always, we try to do it in 10 minutes or less. We are the one-stop shop for the quickest Raw review in town, and never, ever forget it. After that, we'll go to our Height of the People segment, where we engage you on a variation of topics from week to week, polls, discussion, things like that, and we try to get your opinion on the current happenings in the WWE Universe, and sometimes on just fantastical questions. This week, we're going a little dose of reality, and we want to know whether you think the B Team will be future tag team champs sometime once again, or if they were just transitional champions. So that'll be up for the next 72 hours. You can vote at us by using the hashtag #HotTag, tweeting at us, voting in the poll, or emailing us, tagmeinbro@gmail.com, but nobody ever does it. Send a raven if you fancy. But that is about all the methods, I think. Yeah, don't DM us. I mean, you can DM us if you really want, but we probably won't see it because we get a lot of DMs. Not that we won't look for it, but there's a lot going on there. A lot of people trying to get in touch with us. Anyway, after that, we take a spin to the Indie Corner, where this week we're talking about All In, results, reactions, etc. This is predominantly a WWE show, but we do cover non-WWE things when they are big enough and important enough to us, and All In absolutely was historic. I loved it very much. So we'll talk about that in the Indie Corner. And then we are going to move on to the main event, where we will be talking about the question on everyone's mind this week. And the question on everyone's mind this week is, can Braun Strowman afford to lose at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view? We'll be talking about that much more in the main event, and then we'll close out the show the way we do every single week with our Stars of the Night. But first things first, let's get to that Raw Rundown.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Monday Night Raw!
Here are the only 5 things you need to know about Monday Night Raw this week. Number 5, The Shield get arrested. Number 4, Braun versus Balor. Number 3, the Bellas are back. Number 2, McIntyre and Ziggler, new champs. And number 1, Gong Taker! I bet you can guess what that one's about. Anyway, moving back down the list to number 5, let's talk about what happened to start the show this past week. So the show opens with a promo from the new heel team of Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler talking about how great they are and that they brought it to the Shield, blah, blah, blah. They're antagonizing the Shield. The Shield come out, huge bench clearing brawl, locker room clearing brawl. They're out. They're beating the crap out of each other. Then the Shield get arrested. Braun, Ziggler, McIntyre have free reign over the show with their heel acting GM, Constable Baron Corbin, giving them favorable matches, etc. all night. So they've just got the stage is set for basically heel-a-palooza and a classic trope in the Shield being arrested. It was a lot of fun. It was a good opening segment. And the Clash of the Titans that is happening right now between these two stables is awesome to watch. Number 5 ties in very well with number 4, which is Braun Strowman versus Finn Balor, the main event in which Finn Balor once again joined the main event only to be defeated by someone who WWE has the desire to push more. Finn Balor will continually be just close to that upper echelon of main event status, but not quite there in the eyes of at least the people who are deciding who gets the title matches, though we have been happy to see him in the main event, so we can't complain too much, and he looked great against Braun until, of course, he was defeated, which he needs to be right now. No problem with that. No mention of burials or squashes or anything like that here on this show right now, because that is not the case. Just a good old-fashioned Finn got beat by a bigger, stronger guy, and that I am okay with, as long as he keeps getting that good screen time and looking pretty good in the matches, and he definitely took it to Braun for a while. There was a moment where it looked like he might have even choked him out. Anyway, after the match, we hear police sirens, and what do you know? The Shield have magically gotten out of prison. Corey Graves later said on Twitter that David Otunga called one of his judge friends from Harvard Law, blah, blah, blah. Nice kayfabe explanation. They come out, and they get the shit beaten out of them by every single heel in the locker room, led and orchestrated by McIntyre, Ziggler, and Strowman, and it was genius. It was one of my favorite bits I've seen in a long time. It takes a twist on the classic trope of, faces got arrested, they come back, they beat up the heels, they stand tall at the end of the show. No, they got absolutely decimated. Seth Rollins was even unintentionally cut open by the fake glass window that he was thrown through, which was an awesome spot. They just beat the ever-loving crap out of these guys. But I do have one issue to take up with this segment. That being that Kevin Owens led the charge out of the locker room after quitting last week. So fuck continuity apparently, and fuck WWE Creative for literally not even being able to sustain that storyline for one full calendar week. I just so disappointed with that move. You can have anybody else lead the charge. Why bring out KO? Doesn't make sense. They clearly don't care. They're clearly just spinning their wheels on that storyline, which is a shame because last week I said it seemed like it had direction. It did. Now I have lost full faith in it, so they're going to have to win me back. Number 3, the Bellas are back. They have returned to Monday Night Raw to in-ring action and to beating people who we actually like. Now, I should say this first and foremost and get my bias out of the way. I do not like the Bella Twins. Not that I dislike them personally, but I do not like anything they stand for. I believe they are a true representation of what was the worst era in women's wrestling. They, to me, symbolize everything that has to do with looking good and wrestling poorly, being concerned with your image, what you're doing outside of the ring, how you present yourself on television, in non-WWE programs and interviews and red carpets and things like that. Things that to me are not wrestling, but that WWE for a long time with their women prioritized because the women were not viewed as wrestlers, they were viewed as eye candy, and the Bellas led the charge on that, especially in the early days of their career. They tried to pivot later, and Creative tried to make it seem like they were always carrying the division in terms of wrestling quality, but the truth is, and anybody who actually watched along this period knows it, that they were merely there to be divas, and that is it. They are not good wrestlers. It is evident by the way that they work in the ring, and like when you have Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, who are still fairly new, absolutely outperforming you at every level and every aspect of wrestling, you know that you're just not that good. That being said, they came back, had a match, beat the Riot Squad, and then they had a really, really weird segment where they put over Ronda, but also kind of themselves. Like, they were saying how Ronda's going to be the greatest women's champion of all time. I don't know, it just screams to me of pandering. Like, the audience, like, Vince knows that, like, a lot of people do like the Bellas and the Bella Army, and they have their big following, and I'll probably get some flack for shitting on them, and I'm if you like them, great. I do not. Like I said, I think they're representative of a time for women's wrestling that was really bad and really took women back like tens of years in terms of coming into their own and being treated as equals in the stage of wrestling and in the main event. But anyway, not to reiterate my point, but it's clearly Vince being like, okay, a lot of people like them, so why don't we have them put her over? And then they put themselves over, being like, oh, if you need us to teach you anything about like business or fashion. It was weird. It was a really contrived, heavy-handed segment. I did not enjoy it. It made me feel really uncomfortable. Ronda does not mesh with them. She, to me, is an ass kicker, and she is what the division is moving towards, and they are what the division is moving away from. So I prefer to not see them in so many segments together moving forward, but I would guarantee you that we will see many more of them. Moving on from that to number 2 in this segment, new champs. Tag team match was supposed to be Revival versus the B team. McIntyre and Ziggler kick the shit out of the Revival, get Constable Baron Corbin to approve them as their replacement, and they beat the B team, who have to this point been, in my opinion, fun but mediocre champions. And now we have a true dominant megastar heel team as champions. I'm very, very excited about it. It was a good match, not a great match, but a good match, but a great moment at the end. You can tell that they really, Ziggler and McIntyre felt like they had finally had their first of what I believe will be many moments, and they give even more credibility to this stable that they're building between those two and Braun Strowman, and I loved it. And finally, moving on to the number one most important thing from Monday Night Raw last night, and that is that the Undertaker was there, and it was awesome. I haven't been so surprised in wrestling in a long time. I did not expect him to be there. I don't know who did. I guess we should have thought that maybe he was going to show up sometime in this promotion of Super Showdown in his match with Triple H, but I didn't. And anyway, they had this great segment between him and HBK where HBK says he stays retired out of respect for The Undertaker and blah, blah, blah. And Undertaker's like, no, you're stayed retired out of fear of me because you know that I can put you down every time because I have. And I put Triple H down every time, and I'm going to do it again. Taker's definitely going to win that match. We'll talk about that in predictions for Super Showdown down the line. Anyway, it was a really, really good episode of Monday Night Raw. I think the last 3 weeks of Raw have been the best Raw has been in a long time. Very happy with the majority of what's going on right now on the programming, with the creative decisions, etc. I said this last week. I said it the week before. It's a good direction. Keep it up. Keep your foot on the gas. This Shield versus Strowman and company is doing wonders for your programming, for storytelling. You got a lot of top, 3 top faces, 3 top heels. It's great. The belts are pretty much all involved with those guys, which is good. You want your main guys to feel legitimate and hold championships, and I like it. And other people on the lower card actually feel like they have some things to do right now too, in terms of challenging for championships and fighting each other and other feuds. Finn's a little stuck. Kevin Owens is a little directionless, but it's not all bad. Honorary mention, Drake Maverick wore an AOP outfit and was with them this week for some reason, and it was hilarious. Anyway, thought Raw was great. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on social media. And speaking of social media, it is time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on, will the B Team ever have another Raw Tag Team title run, or were they merely a transitional team? You can vote on Twitter by tweeting at us using the hashtag #HotTag. It'll be up for 72 hours, etc., etc. You know the drill. We can't wait to hear your responses. We'll read out the best ones on next week's show. Speaking of best responses, let's talk about the results from last week's topic, where we asked you, are you excited about Braun Strowman's heel turn? 22% said yes, 26% said no, 30%, the highest percentage, said it's not a heel turn, and 22% said it won't last past Hell in a Cell. For those of you that said it's not a heel turn, which was the majority of you, I have to say I believe you're incorrect. It looks like it definitely is. He cut a promo at the beginning of Raw this week stating that he didn't give a crap if the audience cared about what he did. Usually, if there's a seeming heel turn and then there's a promo following it the following week, it really is a heel turn / a face turn, and the heel turn in this case. So I'm thinking he's a heel. He's acting heelish. He's leading heels. He's working with heels. He's a heel, and I love it. Like I said last week, I really love it. Only 22% of you said you were excited about it. I'm surprised. I guess a lot of people like face Braun. I didn't like face Braun that much. I love heel Braun. I'm super excited, and it's great. In terms of responses, we only had one. Mr. I Bleed Blue at BigBlue_boss said, was it a heel turn? I honestly don't think so. Once again, I have to disagree. I think it's pretty blatant from this week's episode that it definitely is a heel turn. Whether or not it lasts past Hell in a Cell, we don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this week's topic.
Bullet Club is fine.
Now let's take a spin to the Indie Corner. Welcome to the Indie Corner. This week we're talking all-in results, reactions, and surprises. What a show it was. First things first, I just want to say that this is going to be the longest segment on the show this week. It's not traditionally the longest segment, but All In was significantly important. If you want to fast forward through this, if you have no interest, you can move on to our main event, which will be a little bit shorter this week. But we're talking about All In right now. So what a great show, first of all. Honestly, another big kudos to Cody and the Young Bucks for having the balls to put this together, to go out on a limb and say, you know what, we can sell out a 10,000-seat arena. Indie wrestling is not dead. We will get the biggest names, and we will attract a lot of people and a lot of pay-per-view buys. And the total numbers for the pay-per-view buys aren't in yet, and I wish they were because I really wanted to discuss it. However, we'll just have to wait and see, and I'll mention it next week in the show. I watched the show on Fight TV. I thought the quality was really high after the initial streaming issues for the first 5 minutes when everybody tried to log on at once. But after that, I had no problems throughout the entire show, which is not what I can say for the WWE Network. Usually I have like 3 or 4 timeouts, but there are also a lot more people typically watching on that, I believe. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. In terms of the actual staging, lighting, presentation, everything felt extremely professional. I mean, it really blew me away. This was not an indie show in those terms. I mean, this was as good as a Monday Night Raw, in my opinion. I mean, it was minimalist, but it was very professional, very tastefully done. I really, really loved what they put together. So let's talk about the matches from the 0 Hour that were shown on WGN America, which I couldn't watch live, but I followed on Twitter and then went back and watched them later. SCU defeated the Briscoes, which was fine, and then Flip Gordon won the over budget battle royal match to get booked for the show, which was a great moment, and everybody was wondering, how's Flip going to get booked? A lot of people thought he was going to win the battle royal. I thought he was just going to show up and get a last minute match with a surprise guest, maybe Neville, but Neville did not show up, so no. He got booked through the battle royal, and I'm so glad he did because that ended up being one of the best matches of the night. Let me just state from the outset that I'll actually give my rating for the show up front. So I give it an 8.75 out of 10. Historically, it was hugely significant, and I'll talk about the reasons why over the course of this segment. The match quality was extremely high. There were a couple of finishes that I didn't really like, which left a bit of a bad taste in your mouth for some of the matches. So it wasn't perfect in that regard, and there's always a few botches here and there. The pacing of the show was not great. Some matches ran too long and some felt too short, including the main event. And what else? I mean, the surprises were fun in terms of fan service. Like, it was just, like, in terms of fan service and just like fun wrestling show, it was a 10. Like, moments that made you feel something, it was a 10 for that. So you mash together those things, the pros and the cons, you get an 8.75, which is a really good show. Would highly recommend it. I would say it is in my top 10 favorite wrestling pay-per-views of all time across any promotion. I mean that. I really, really enjoyed it. My expectations weren't low per se, but they were just average because I didn't really know what to expect. It was a brand new thing, and they were blown to smithereens. So let's go through the card really quickly. This isn't an official review, just noting a few things. So you had the first match, Matt Cross defeated MJF. I did not know anything about MJF before this show, and I was thoroughly impressed. I think he's going to be a big deal. You had Christopher Daniels, the legend, defeated Stephen Amell. If you watch this match, you would think that Stephen Amell was a full-time wrestler. He impressed me probably the most out of anyone, because if you think about his SummerSlam match a few years ago compared to now, he has really been putting in work. He may have a career in wrestling if he ever wanted to abandon acting, but it doesn't pay as much, certainly not when you're the star of Arrow. The women's match was exceptional. It was one of the best women's matches and just one of the best matches that I've watched in a really, really long time. All 4 of these women are superstars. Any of them can go wherever they wanted and steal the show. They've got the looks, the charisma, the in-ring ability to be like just hugely famous. Tessa Blanchard, everybody knows about, but Chelsea Green, for me, stole the show and really got her hot mess character over with the fans. And I did not know a lot about her before this. I was thoroughly impressed with her. But Madison Rayne and Britt Baker as well, very great. Britt Baker came out to Adam Cole's music. They are in a relationship, for those of you that don't know. So that was a really nice touch. The next major moment of the night, and perhaps the biggest moment of the night, was when Cody Rhodes defeated Nick Aldis to capture the NWA Heavyweight Championship. This match was, I thought, going to be the main event of the night, and it sort of felt like the main event because it had the biggest title on the line. Some might argue the Ring of Honor title is bigger, but there's a lot of history behind the NWA title, and it had significance to Cody because his father won it. Just a moving moment. The story that the match told about Cody's struggle and Nick Aldis' superior in-ring ability and size, etc., but Cody's just desire to keep fighting. The title meant so much to him on this stage that he built, and just when he won it, it just brought a tear to your eye. It just was really a special moment in wrestling history, and I think anyone that's watched wrestling for a long time, regardless of your age, but someone who knows the history of the professional wrestling business and what the NWA title means, what it meant to Cody's father and what it means to him by transfer, just was really moving. And I highly recommend anyone to go and watch that match because it was really, really enjoyable. Moving forward, you had the Hangman, Adam Page, defeated Joey Janela in a Chicago street fight. That was absolutely brutal. Then you had Jay Lethal defeat Flip to retain the Ring of Honor Championship in what was one of my favorite matches of the night in terms of in-ring performance. Really great. Jay Lethal's a stud. I can't believe he's not in WWE. Maybe he doesn't want to go. I don't know. He's awesome. Flip, I think, will go to WWE long term. It's going to be hard for Vince not to notice him. That guy is a true talent, and he has all the things that I think Vince McMahon would love in a WWE superstar. Omega vs. Pentagon Jr. was spectacular. You had just 2 elite in-ring performers that are both at the top of their game right now. Kenny, arguably the best wrestler in the world. Pentagon, arguably, definitely top 20, maybe top 10 in the world, depending on how you define best wrestler. Just awesome technical in-ring match. The contrast between Kenny's hard-hitting style and Pentagon's lucha libre style, but also his psychology of Cero Miedo and all of that that goes along with it. Really cool to watch. Highly recommend it. Was definitely a dream match for me. So glad we got it on this card. And then after the match, the big surprise that everybody was talking about for days is Chris Jericho showed up, hit Kenny Omega with a code breaker, plugged his crews, and fucked off. It was awesome. Just everybody was hoping for a big surprise like that, and there were a couple other smaller things like DDP hitting a diamond cutter early in the night, which was great, and I marked out. But this was, for me, the top one of the night, which is bold because I forgot to mention that after the Adam Page match, Joey Ryan returned. He was res-erected from his murder. He showed up with inflatable penis druids, and he beat up Adam Page, and then Adam Page was carried away by the penis druids while 10,000 people chanted, "Rest in penis." Wrestling is the fucking greatest thing in the entire world, and I don't care what anyone says. It's just the best. So we are running long, just like All In did. The penultimate match of the night was Kazuchika Okada versus Marty Scurll, where I really thought Marty rose to the occasion, held his own against the Rainmaker, showed that he can hang with any heavyweights. I think he could be a heavyweight in the future in any company barring WWE, but you never know. His gimmick is so good, like Finn's, I think he would get over with the fans. Every time I watch his entrance, I'm just in awe. It's one of the best entrances in wrestling. The music, the costuming, his just his kind of demeanor when he walks out, it's great. Finally, great match to finish the night. It was only 12 minutes, but you had the Golden Elite, Kota and the Young Bucks versus Rey Mysterio, Bandito, and Phoenix. The really important thing to note from this match, other than that the Golden Elite won, and of course they did, it was their show, is that Bandito, who is, I think, only like 20 years old, had his coming out party. I mean, this boy is phenomenal. He is just spectacular. He only has like 2,700 followers on Twitter. This guy's going to be really, really huge, I think. The stuff that he did in the ring was some of the most amazing work that I have ever seen. Go check the match out on, it's on New Japan World or on Honor Club or on Fight TV, however you have to watch it. Anyway, All In gets all of my support. It was tremendous. I really, really, really enjoy the show. I would recommend it to anyone, whether you are a WWE fan, a New Japan fan, a Ring of Honor fan. It was just a good product. And there's been a lot of online back and forth of WWE people bashing it and All In people then bashing WWE. There doesn't need to be that. Good wrestling is good wrestling. You enjoy what you enjoy. We've said it a million times on Twitter and on this show. This whole wrestling is for everyone movement is about differences not only in race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, but also in what you love. Whether you like Ring of Honor, New Japan, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Progress, Rev Pro, CMLL, AAA, Lucha Underground, WWE, it doesn't matter. Wrestling is just great when it's great for you. If you love it, then it's special and celebrate it. And if you don't like a particular thing, it's okay to say that too, but you don't have to bash people for loving a moment because it might be special to them, and why you would ever want to take that away from someone just because it wasn't special to you is baffling to me. If someone enjoys something and you didn't like it, just say, I'm glad you enjoy it, I didn't care for it, and move on. And that's the wrestling community that I want to see. Anyway, stepping off of my soapbox, that has been the Indie Corner. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know more about your thoughts on All In on Twitter.
It's Rusev Day. It's Rusev Day.
And now it's time for the main event. Welcome to the main event. This week, the main event is not so much the main event as it is just happening at the end of the show. So pretty much like a standard WWE pay-per-view, although next week we're returning to the format where this will be the longest segment. But the question I wanted to talk about this week is, can Braun Strowman afford to lose at Hell in a Cell to Roman Reigns? And my short answer is no, he cannot afford to lose. Now let me tell you why. Braun Strowman has had countless opportunities to get the Universal Championship, whether it's from Brock or Brock, mostly from Brock. He had a lot of opportunities against Brock, and he failed to capitalize on those in his one-on-one and in his triple threat and in the fatal four-way. He just hasn't really been able to nail down the right combination of moves and timing to win the big one. So when you have a guy like Braun who absolutely beats everyone, has a super impressive win record, it's got to be like 98, 99% wins, and yet he just can't quite win, you start to say to yourself, well, maybe this guy isn't a winner after all. Maybe he's just tough, but at the end of the day, he's a loser. And now he's a heel, so, when you have that big turn, like they did with Nakamura not so long ago, and you don't capitalize, it really, really quickly sucks the wind out of the sails of momentum that these wrestlers have. I mean, Nakamura is a wrestler that I really admire, but frankly, I'm not interested in what he's doing right now. I wanted him to win that feud because he had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, to quote EC3, and he failed and he failed and he failed, and then he cheated and he failed and he cheated and he failed and he cheated and he failed, and now Braun Strowman is entering a very similar situation. Braun has failed many times, and though they've made it look like it has never been his fault by very clever booking and safe booking and protecting him and making him look strong, make no mistake, Braun Strowman is in very dangerous waters here, and he is very close, not to becoming irrelevant. I would never say that, because Braun's not going to become irrelevant, but there's a very thin line between over and Bray Wyatt. And we all saw what happened to Bray Wyatt when he just kept losing when it mattered most. And if you think that can't happen to anyone, I submit to you that Bray Wyatt was the most over wrestler in the company at one time, just like Braun is now. And he's with his nice new shiny heel team, and they seem like they've got all the cards in place to win this hand. And if they don't win, they might just go bust. All right, that's a lot of metaphors. I don't mean to be talking so fancy. I really just think that Braun needs to win right now. And as much as I love Roman being champion, and in a weird way, I don't want Roman to lose, which is confusing to me because I've fought against him being champion for so long, but now I kind of like him as champ, like I talked about in the show 2 weeks ago. If you haven't heard it, go on iTunes or Podbean and you can check it out. I did it in the main event. Anyway, I kind of don't want Roman to lose, but I also recognize that like Braun really, really needs to win to stay legitimate. And it is a conundrum. The truth is that no matter what anyone tells you, championships do matter, especially for top guys. You know, we all were saying that like, oh, Roman never wins the big one, and then we stopped believing that he was able to. And you get in that thing where it's like, yeah, you can beat anyone, but you can't be the champion. People start to get disinterested in your character because all you basically are then are a hindrance to their favorite guys who actually have a shot at winning the title. And I don't want that to be what Braun is. I don't want him to just be the final boss of the game before you actually get the championship. He has everything necessary to be the champion. They've done so much. They've put titles on him with a little kid, which they wouldn't do unless they wanted him to be a top guy. They had him win the Greatest Royal Rumble, which they wouldn't do unless they wanted him to be a top guy. They protected him. He has only lost clean to Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. I think his only other loss was in a dumpster match to Kalisto. Like, since he's been the super solo heel Braun, at least. And I think maybe even before that. He is a true monster. They've done so good in getting him to where he needs to be. And it is time to pull the trigger. Put the Universal title on him. I don't even care if he and Roman go back and forth. It's already been established in kayfabe that Roman can beat Braun when he needs to. Have them trade titles back and forth, but Braun needs to win this. For the sake of legitimacy, for the sake of story continuity, for the sake of just not ruining another guy with poor creative decision-making. It's time for Braun Strowman to be the Universal Champion. And I, for one, welcome our new Monster Champion and Overlord. That has been the main event. I told you it was going to be short this week, but we had a long discussion about All In and extended Raw review. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. It was brief, and perhaps we'll expand on this sometime in the future with the main event on how not to book someone if you want them to be a megastar in terms of wins and losses in championship matches. Could be a really interesting discussion. Maybe we'll do it next week. You'll just have to tune in to find out. And now let's close out the show the way we do every night with our Stars of the Night. Here are our Stars of the Night for Monday Night Raw, September 3rd, 2018 edition.
You just made the list!
Number 3, the third star this week gets awarded to all the heels in the locker room for their amazing beatdown of the Shield. That was one of the most interesting segments I have seen on Raw in a long time. Caught me completely off guard. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you expect the Shield to get the upper hand in that situation, but they didn't. The heels did a great job. Everyone was doing their work, especially Drew Gulak, particularly noticed him. Jinder was getting some good moves in. The AOP looked really tough. Really enjoyed it. And even Mike Kanellis made an appearance. So really enjoyed that. They're on the list this week. Number 2 is Ziggler and McIntyre. The new champs have absolutely earned a spot on this list, not only for their performance since they debuted on Raw, but especially this week. Seizing tag team gold. Good for them. I look forward to, hopefully, a long and dominant reign from those two. And the number 1 star of the night is The Undertaker, because when The Undertaker shows up on an episode of Monday Night Raw, it doesn't matter one goddamn second what he actually did or said. He's the fucking Undertaker, and he gets the number 1 star because the dead man is a legend and will live forever. So, dead man, you're the number 1 star just for being your sweet old self. You deserve it. That'll do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at TagMeInBro and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else podcasts can be found. We're pretty much everywhere. As always, if you enjoy the show, please drop us a 5-star review. Thanks this week to Dits on Wrestling for their recent review of the show. As always, it helps us to grow and expand and climb that mountain of success on the iTunes charts, and someday that success will be transferred onto you in terms of free giveaways and things like that, because the more successful we get, the more merch we can make, and the more merch we can make, the more we can give away merch to you guys for free and cool giveaways and contests and things like that. So you help us, we help you with cool stuff, and also eventually we'll be expanding further into YouTube and things like that. So there's always good to come when you help us out. We appreciate it because we love doing this, but we can't do it without you, the fans. We truly, truly appreciate every single thing you guys do for us, including just listening every week and telling your friends to listen. It means a lot. For myself, Joe Tantillo, I want to personally thank each and every one of you for listening and tuning in this week. Now I'm tagging out. I'll see you next week for more Raw and more wrestling discussion. Goodbye, universe.